Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Glen Carlson. In this video, I'm going to be giving you a 3-step architecture for how to transform your pitch beyond the mundane. And I used to suck at pitching. I kind of oscillate from like trying to be really fancy to just being really boring and bland and kind of getting no cut through at all. So I'm going to teach you what I've learned, but what I've now taught thousands of our clients around the world to be able to do. Made a big difference for me, made a big difference for them. I hope it's going to make a big difference for you. Cue that intro. So great to see all you happy business owners and entrepreneurs out there. I understand I can't actually see you, but I'm feeling the vibes, so thank you. So I'm going to go through some of the mistakes that people make around pitching. I'm going to go through some examples. I'm going to go through the 3-step architecture that I use, and I'm going to give you some tips for implementation that you can use. So let's do this straight away. Mistake number one, and I should preface this with a disclaimer, this is just how I do it. There's thousands of different ways to pitch. I find this to be a useful one. Big mistake is thinking people care about what you do. So when people ask you, what do? You think, well, I should tell you what I do, which is all about you. The thing that I think you'll find is that people actually, when they're interested in what you do, what they're actually interested in is how that could be of benefit to them. If you think about Kodak was a $10 billion company. It went out of business because they thought what they did was chemicals and paper. They're a $10 billion a year company selling chemicals and paper. So when this guy in 1975 in their basement came up with a digital camera, it was like a 0.01 megapixel, 8 kilo box. The board in their ivory towers were like, literally, don't even tell anybody about that, because that wasn't their business. Because they were fixated on what they did, they missed the innovation that was actually going to get people what they wanted, which was easy memories, click, done, far easier, far faster, far cheaper. And of course, Kodak had its Kodak moment.
Aren't all your moments worth Kodak film?
Because it was so focused on what it did. The railroad tycoons had the same thing, right? They were so focused on their railroads. A couple of bicycle mechanics and the Kitty Hawk and Henry Ford created a couple of other modes of transportation, and all of a sudden the train industry went off a cliff, because really what people wanted wasn't a train ride. They wanted to get from point A to point B. So you were in the business of getting people in your own way from point A to point B. What you do is the means to the end. I like the analogy. People don't buy drill bits, they buy the hole, or they buy the painting up on the wall, right? But the mechanism for getting the result has less perceived value than the result itself. So if you were to just think, people don't want your product, people don't want your service, people don't want your time, they want an outcome, they want a result, this architecture is gonna massively help you if you can have a bias towards communicating in those terms. If you're going to use this architecture to pitch a drill bit, it's not going to work, it's not going to be effective. It is by far the biggest mistake that I see. Just solving that one thing will do wonders. Mistake number 2, this is equally as important. It's people trying to be different too early. Trying to differentiate, because the whole key is, how do I get cut through? How do I differentiate? And often what happens when people try and differentiate too early is they just sound weird. Like, and I was this guy, right? You go to a networking event, hey, what do you do? And someone says, I help people become their best selves. Right. Not gonna get effective cut through. Not the best way to go. It's confusing, it makes me think you're a bit weird. Now, you might be thinking, but hang on a minute, Glenn, that's kind of what you said just before, which is the result. If people wanna be their best self, it's like, yes, but there is an architecture to it. You see, the human brain needs to link the unknown, something new, something different, to something that it already knows. So if we just open with the unknown, the different, the super unique, the brain doesn't know where to put it, the brain doesn't know how to process it. It's either gonna delete it, or it's just gonna put you in the weird bucket. It's like, I've heard weird shit before, I'll put it there. And that's not what you want either. So mistake number 1, people don't care about you. Mistake number 2, trying to be different too early. And the third big mistake is trying to pack an entire value proposition into the opening of a conversation. Oh, we're an engineering company and we optimize supply chains across multifaceted, cross-dimensional matrices for companies with international distribution. Imagine you're sitting at a bar or a coffee shop or whatever it is, and someone next to you asks, what do you do? Like, your answer has to be how you would actually say it to a person. The moment you try and pack a whole value proposition into your response, you're coming across as this needy person that's trying to sell and is trying to, like, they're so desperate for business, they're trying to communicate all this value. Doesn't work. So heed those 3 mistakes as I go into the 3-step architecture. Now, the first step architecture, it's really a 2-step architecture, because the first step is name, which is your name, your company name, your position. So my name's Glen Carlson. Our company's called Dent Global. I could throw in there I'm the co-founder, anything like that. And by the way, you might hear when I'm talking, it's kind of loose. It is loose. This shouldn't be scripted. This should be something that you can just hit these bases in a generalized kind of way, so you're sounding natural based on how you feel at the time. The moment you script this and it becomes canned, it loses its impact as well. So the first step, give us your name, give us your position, give us your company, nice and easy. The next step is same. Oh, I struggle with this step, and you're gonna struggle with this step, and everyone I know struggles with this step. So just the other day, I was doing a workshop to about 60 entrepreneurs. They're all employers, doing somewhere between sort of $500,000 and 1.5 million revenue, between sort of 2 and 15 employees, call it. And this step, all of them really struggle with it, because what I need you to do is I need you to essentially say the most boring industry category that you fit into. For me, it'd be, we're a business coaching and training company. It's like, oh, that just makes me cringe, because like we're so much more than that. And naturally, everyone wants to communicate how much more we are. But remember, going back to mistake number 2, the human brain can only link something different to something that it already knows and understands. And people can understand business coaching and training, right? So if you're a lawyer, you've got to open with, I'm a lawyer. If you're a family lawyer, you can open with, I'm a family lawyer, because that still makes a lot of sense. Whatever you say, so long as it's a category that everybody's gonna have already established in their mind, you're fine. But the moment you start getting into something weird, or you start creating your own categories, you start naming your own categories, forget about it, right? Just go back to what works. If you're a consultant and it's broad and boring, open with you're a consultant. I promise you we're gonna get to how to differentiate in a moment, but if you don't do this right, when you start talking about why you're different, you're gonna come across as weird or confusing, and it's not gonna have the same impact. You sandwich same with your name and with the next step, and you're gonna transform your ability to communicate, I promise. All right, let's get to step number 3, which is the kicker here, claim to fame. By claim to fame, your fame isn't about like celebrity fame. It just rhymes. Name, same, claim to fame. And I've researched influencers from, the Nelson Mandelas and the Martin Luther Kings, all the way through to small micro business influencers. And one of the constant themes is that they promise us something beyond the mundane. I want you to think about your business heroes, and I want you to really consider, what is it that they're actually pitching us? If you think of Tom's. I think Tom's is a really cool brand. It's a really cool company. They sell shoes, but for every shoe that they sell, they also give a pair to a child in need so they can get to school and all that kind of stuff. Now, that is not a Martin Luther King, I have a dream and a promise of equality kind of a pitch, but it's still a pretty remarkable pitch, and it's helped them build a very, very successful business as well. I love Daniel Flynn from Thank You Water. He was the first guy I had on my podcast in Australia. Their promise beyond the mundane is conscious consumption, like that you can drink bottled water, which is an insane idea in and of itself, but their promise is something more meaningful than other bottled water companies in Australia. We go to the top of the pops for your entrepreneurial fans, the Elon Musk promise of a multi-planetary society. I mean, these are huge promises. The point that I want to make though is you don't need to have a promise that is an Elon Musk, we're going to Mars. You just got to beat out 95% of your industry. So let me give you an example of this. One of my clients and a good friend, Clarissa Raywood, she is a family lawyer. And her original pitch was, I'm a family lawyer. I help families navigate the complexities of separation. Now, you might kind of go, okay, that makes sense. But she's pitching the drill bit. There's nothing truly remarkable around that pitch. It's a functional explanation of what she does. It could be, I'm an accountant. We help businesses navigate the complexities of tax. It could be an interior designer. I help new homeowners, you know, whatever it is. With working with Clarissa, and it's the same activity we're gonna give you right now, which is just put yourself in the customer's shoes. What is their point B? What is their finish line? What is the result? What is the outcome that they want, that once they cross that line, once they get that outcome, they know they've got incredible value from you. They've got what they paid for. And for Clarissa, really powerfully driven by her why and her philosophy was, well, I want to help them separate. I want to help them stay out of court, because she wanted to kind of disrupt the traditional legal industry, which is let's just throw lawyers at each other and kind of see what happens, right? It's kind of like negotiating a peace deal with an arms dealer. There's a conflict of interest there. So when Clarissa looked at what they wanted to separate, they wanted to stay out of court, but they wanted to also stay friends. Because by staying friends, it's the best thing you can do to protect your kids, because it's the kids that really suffer from these divorces. Now, on its own, that doesn't sound too flash, but when you compare it against the family lawyer industry, having this promise, this purpose, this mission of helping people separate, stay out of court, and stay friends is actually way better than 95% of anything else out there. She then went on and launched the podcast. She launched the blog. She wrote a book called Splitsville, How to Separate, Stay Out of Court, and Stay Friends. And she very quickly became the key person of influence in that space. Name, same, and her claim to fame was simply her promise beyond the mundane. Man, there is some rhyming going on here. Let me give you another example of a business coach. Martin Norbury, based in the UK, he used to say, well, I'm a business coach and I help businesses scale. But again, we're talking about a drill bit here. We're talking about a hyper commoditized industry. We got to do better than that. Putting himself in his customer's shoes, what his clients really wanted was to only have to work 4 days a week. They were already working 6-7 day weeks. From his experience interviewing his customers, finding out what they actually wanted in their words, pro tip by the way, the answer was they didn't want to work Fridays. So he wrote the book, I Don't Work Fridays. Now, isn't that, from a business coach's perspective, a pretty cool promise beyond the mundane? I help my clients get to the point where they can tell their mates they don't work Fridays anymore. Ours is pretty simple. My name's Glen Carlson. I run a business coaching and advisory company all around the world, and we are known for helping our clients become key people of influence in less than 40 weeks. Name, same, claim to fame that has that bias towards the result. You sharpen your pitch on the stone of the market. So here's my recommendation. I recommend you grab a bit of paper, chop it up into threes, a couple of different ways that you say your name and your business and your title, a couple of different bog standard industry categories, and a couple of different ways that you communicate what it is you actually deliver, the outcome that your customer actually wants, and go test it. I love your comments below. What is your elevator pitch? What is your name, same, claim to fame? In this channel, I create all sorts of videos and content to be able to help established entrepreneurs accelerate their journey. If you like this video, please give it the thumbs up because it really helps the algorithm. Share it with more people. Subscribe if you haven't already. Ring that bell so it'll notify you when my next video goes up. Enjoy the next couple of weeks out there pitching, see how it gets cut through. Hit me up in the comments. And as always, be brave, have fun, and let's go make a dent in the universe.